We're going to start our second day on 13.3. Now, if you're not in my class, Mrs. Bennett's class, I just want you to notice that I did my order just a little bit differently. So if you were in any of the other secondary 2 classes, this was probably more your day 1 notes. So just look at them. My notes are going to be a little bit different, but it'll be covering the same topic. So hopefully you can use this to reinforce the ideas that you've already learned and just help you out that way. So if they're a little bit different, don't panic. It's the same stuff. I just structured my notes differently. We're going to talk about factoring quadratics with the greatest common factor first today. And if you're in my class, you would learn to factor quadratics with a greatest common factor with an 80% accuracy. At the end of the day, we always take a quick little quiz, see where we're at, and make sure that we are 80%. So at the end of this, there is going to be a little quiz, and you can double check yourself and see how you do. The first thing is review. What is the standard form of a quadratic equation? The other classes may not have taught this yet, but if you're in mine, it's ax squared plus bx plus c, where a, b, and c are just numbers. A represents the number in front of x squared, b is the number in front of x, and c is the constant. Explain in your own words the method for factoring simple quadratics, then share with a partner. So if you're at home, you can go share this with your little sister if you want to. But I want you to think about your method for factoring simple quadratics. If you're in my class, yesterday we talked about something like this, x plus 3 minus 10. I hope that works because I didn't try it beforehand. But yeah, it should. So this would factor into, if I find 2 numbers that are going to multiply to give me negative 10, but add to give me 3, that would be x minus 2, x plus 5. And if I were to FOIL that back out, I would get x squared plus 3 minus 10. So I want you to explain how I did that in your own words. It could be something along the lines of, took 2 factors of the last term, I should have put an x right here, that will add together to give me the middle term. Or it can be a little bit more with using your math language, which would say 2 factors of c, which is right here, that would add to give me b, or right there. Just a quick review of what we learned so far, how to add polynomials. So if you're good on this part, you can go ahead and fast forward it, but if you need a quick review, this would be good for you to watch. So when we add polynomials, we are just combining like terms. So I have 2x cubed, and I don't need the parentheses here when I'm adding. Really, it's just kind of adding everything in a straight line. So I can drop my parentheses, but the x cubed terms combine, I combine the coefficients. Now, coefficients are the numbers in front of the term. So x cubed, the number that's actually there is a 1, even though we don't write it. So I would have 3x cubed, cross those 2 off my list. And then I have a negative 5x squared and a positive 6x squared. That just gives me a positive 1x squared, or the best way to write that would just be x squared. I like to cross them off my list as I go. I don't have any other x terms, so I'm just going to put plus 3x. And then my constants, I have negative 9 and positive 11. That gives me a positive 2. So that would be how I would add 2 polynomials. Let's review how to subtract. The only difference here is that when I have a subtraction sign between the 2, that means I have to distribute this negative sign. It's like a negative 1. I have to times every term in here by negative 1. So I'm going to distribute that negative and then drop my parentheses. So if I rewrote this, I'd have 4z cubed plus 9z minus 12 minus 5z squared plus z minus 3. So multiplying everything by negative 1 just changed all the signs. This 5 became negative, the z became positive, the 3 became negative. And now I just combine my like terms. I don't have any other z cubed terms, so I'm just going to write that down here. 4z cubed, cross that off my list. I have one z squared term right here, so I'll just put minus 5z squared, cross that off my list. Then I have a 9z and a 1z, so that's 10z. And then I have a negative 12 and a negative 3, and that would be minus 15. When we're adding and subtracting polynomials, the mistake I see the most is on subtraction, and it is forgetting to distribute that negative. So make yourself a big note not to forget to do that. Now multiplying polynomials, as a quick review, if I have a monomial times a binomial, some of you might not know what I'm talking about if you were in a different class, but my class went over this. I would have this 3x times x gives me 3x squared, and then I distribute it to the 6. So that would be plus 18x, and that's my answer. I can't simplify that any further. The next one is a binomial multiplied by a binomial. And we had two methods. We had box method or FOIL. And the FOIL method is basically just taking this 2x and timesing it by both terms in the second equation, and then taking my 3 and multiplying it by both terms. We call it first, outside, inside, last, and this is the reason. 2x times x are my first terms, so that would be 2x squared. My two outside terms, you notice they're both on the outside here of the parentheses, so I have 2x times negative 2 gives me negative 4x. Then on the inside, both these two terms are on the inside, I have 3x. And then last, I have 3 times negative 2. So if you don't like to say first, outside, inside, last, if that confuses you, just take your 2x, distribute it, and then take your 3 and distribute it. Once I do that, I need to combine my like terms. So I'm running out of room here just a little bit. Put a new piece of paper here. And that would give me 2x squared minus x minus 6. Now when we get down here a little bit further, I want you to pay attention that minus x, that is actually a negative 1 right there. Don't forget that. So when I have a middle term of an x or a minus x, that's either a 1 or a negative 1. All right, let's look at the next one. Now, I'm going to need a little extra paper for this one. I have a binomial multiplied by a trinomial. And just because I'm going to do this the garden method, so you can see both of them, I'm going to need a little bit more room. But if you don't like the garden method, you would just distribute your 2a all the way through the other equation, and then you distribute your negative 3 all the way through. And that would do the same thing. But I'm going to use the garden method. So I have a cubed minus 10a and minus 2 across the top. Now the negative goes with the 10 and the negative goes with the 2 here. And then on the bottom here, or along the side, I have 2a and have negative 3. So if I combine in this box, I have 2a to the 4th. This box would be negative 20a squared. What I'm doing is I'm multiplying the two outside terms of that box. So this box I would multiply negative 2 by 2a, which is negative 4a. Then a cubed times negative 3 is negative 3a. Negative 3 times negative 10 is 30a. And then negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Did I miss any negatives? Trying to quickly check. I think I got it right. Okay, so now I need to write all my terms. Just these ones here in the middle. I'm going to rewrite them all. So I have 2a to the 4th minus 20a squared minus 4a minus 3a plus 30a plus 6. So a good question I always have is, how do you know if you're adding the 6 or subtracting here? Well, we just look at it, and if there's nothing in front of it, I know it's positive. So whatever sign, like this 4a, there's a negative with it, so down here in the equation, it goes minus 4a. All right, now we combine like terms. So 2a to the 4th minus 20a squared, because neither one of those have another term. And then I have a negative 4a and negative 3a, which gives me negative 7. And then I have to add 30. So that gives me a positive 23a, and then plus 6. And that would be my answer right there. I know you didn't have enough room on that. If you don't, you could have just written that on a separate piece of paper as well. Okay, now we're going to factor. This is the last thing we did. So this was 13.1 and 13.2. This was 13.1 and 13.2. And then this was 13.3 day 1. This is what we've done so far in this class. So if you didn't have me like I said, this factoring or unfoiling here, you maybe haven't done this yet, so, or you're going to be getting to it soon, so you can watch it or skip this part if you need to. Alright, so to factor means that I need to take two numbers that will add to 10 and give me -3 in the middle. So I take 10 and I list all the factors. There's 1 and 10. Sorry, it will multiply to 10 and add to -3 in the middle. I'm not sure how I said that. And then 2 and 5. Those are the only numbers I have to work with because those are the only numbers that multiply to 10. I'm sorry about the connection here. It's not very good. So I know that to get -3 on this side, I have to have a 2 and a 5, and I need to add or subtract somehow, that I would have to do a +2 and a -5. So when I factor this, I would write x plus 2, x minus 5. Well, where'd my screen go? Sorry, I guess we're having a little technical difficulties. I'll just see if I can pause this recording really quickly.